because of the secret of survival of the Yehudim, of the Am HaYehudi, the Jewish people, is that in some ways we honored and always went with the law of the land. Another Wednesday morning, Parshat Hayey Sarah, and so what I'll share today, what I'm sharing is this Sefaria.org, just the Chumash, and this is the story of Sarah passing away, and so here's a psukim. So it's in Genesis 23, as you can see, and it's verses 3 through roughly 20, I believe. Let's scroll down.
Right.
Where Avram is buying till the end of the chapter.
We begin our Parsha with the aftermath of our discussion last week, which is the binding of Isaac. Unfortunately, as a result of the binding of Isaac, the matriarch, the first Jewish woman, Sarah Imenu, Sarah, unfortunately, she was, without going into the details of why and how, she was made aware of what had occurred, and it was such a strain on her. She was 127 years old. She basically, what we would say today, she suffered a heart attack, basically. What?
She succumbed.
Yeah, from the news that her son, her only son, had been brought up as a sacrifice on the mountain and this and that, she was scared. She was scared to death, literally. Our sages teach us. When Abraham came back from the Akedah, he realized that his wife had passed away. Now it became time to bury his wife, Rahman al-Islam. And these psukim, these verses that we're going to be discussing in detail today, very fascinating, was the negotiation of purchasing this cave and the surrounding field from its owner. Because remember, at this time, even though the land of Israel had been promised to Avraham Avinu's descendants, it was not yet in his possession. He was a resident alien, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And and he felt that it was only right, as we'll see, we'll get into it, that he needed to buy this field. So basically, he approaches the owners of this field. Now, this field belonged to the Bnei Ches, the children of Ches, the Chiti people, which were one of the nations that lived in Eretz Canaan. He approached the people that were around the cave, the Bnei Ches, and he said, "Listen, I would like to buy this cave." So they all knew who Sarah was. They who knew who Avraham Avinu was. They were famous people. They were highly respected people. Mm-hmm. And they knew who this guy was. They said, "Avram, take the field. No problem. Go ahead. We know who you are. You're a great guy." And he was like, "Well, wait a minute. You're not the owners. I appreciate the thought, but take it easy. Who owns this field over here?" "Oh, that's a guy named Ephraim." Ephraim. "Okay, well, bring him over. Let me talk to him. I can't negotiate with you." They bring Ephraim over, who had very recently been made the chief. And he also knew who Avram was. And Ephraim was a sharp guy. He said, "Buy? What do you have to buy? You're my friend. Take it as a gift." Mm-hmm. So Avraham Avinu was very wise, and he understood that, no, I don't want any gifts. "Oh, no, come on," back and forth, interesting dialogue. No, yes. Finally said, okay. "Well, how much do you want for it?" "I don't know. What's 400 silver shekels between friends?" which was way an overvaluation. So anyway, Avram made sure every which way from Sunday, as the expression goes, a signed contract, witnesses. He wanted to ensure that no one in the future would ever have a taina, would ever dispute that the legitimacy of this contract, of this sale. Mm-hmm. And finally, the end, the sale was carried through, and Avraham Avinu was able to have the burial of his dear wife, Sarah Imenu, Sarah the matriarch. Yeah. That's the surface story.
Yeah, now it's clear. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. I just wanted to show the people, this is basically the land of Israel. Mm-hmm. This is from Rabbi Kaplan's The Living Torah, which has excellent maps in it, as well as a beautiful translation. Anyway, this is Hebron, the town of Hebron. I'm sorry. Here is Hebron.
Yep.
Now, they were in Jerusalem by Har HaMoriah, mm-hmm. but they had been living in Be'er Sheva, mm-hmm. but then they moved back to Hebron. Mm-hmm. Where am I? Hebron, I'm sorry, Hebron. Just to put into context of where we are. Yep. And he went back to Hebron, and this is the town of Hebron, we find out in these verses, is also known as Kiryat Arba.
That's right.
The city of four. One of the reasons it's called the city of four is because in that cave are going to be buried four couples. Mm-hmm. The first humans, Adam and Chava, and the three patriarch and matriarchs, right. Jacob and Leah, not Rachel, who was buried somewhere else.
Beautiful. Let's look at the psukim here for a second, just to see some of the ambiguities, in the text, and some of the questions that are being asked about it. Right. So, okay. So Gel v'toshav anochi imachem. So Avraham says, "I'm like you said it. I'm a resident, alien resident amongst you." There's an interesting commentary. It doesn't say. He says imachem, with you, not amongst you. He should have said beinechem. And the question is, why does he use the language imachem? So there's, like a nice theological take on that we're all resident aliens. You two, I am with you together. We're all resident aliens. So don't take it so seriously that you own these caves. We're all like resident aliens.
In this world, in the physical, material world.
So spiritually, he takes it to a meta spiritual level.
Very good.
So anyway, so they answer him and they say to him, Shma'enu Adoni Nasi Elohim ata betochenu. They remind him that they know that he's a sage, that he's a great, that he's but a chieftain of God, right? He's a great, he's a divinely great, and they offer him basically a gift. Why don't you bury it wherever you want? They have different burial. It was customary that each family had their own cave, their own burial place. You say, yeah, sure, well, we'll help you out. And what's interesting here, and Nechama was going to talk about this in a moment, he says, Vayakam Avram vayishtachu la'aretz. Avram is prostrating, is bowing down to the Hittites, to the folks, which is a curious thing. Why would somebody who's so great be bowing down, to these, Canaanites? Obviously, he's ushering this new and better spiritual system, right? And there he is, bowing to them. And then he specifically has his eyes. He's saying, okay, so could you introduce me to this particular guy, Ephron, which you talked about, Rebelli. And he's interested in the specific place right there in Ephron's property. And then the whole negotiation with Ephron proceeds like Rebelli just introduced us to. And then again, look at verse 12. Vayishtachu Avraham lifnei Amaretz. And again, he's bowing down to the to the inhabitants.
Mm-hmm.
And Nechama is going to ask the question: what is all this bowing down? But what are we learning from it? Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to. I actually looked for Nechama in Sefaria, but I could not find this particular, the text that's in a particular book. She's there, and I recommend looking at her. When she really organizes, she asks questions and brings a different classical commentators, especially the Ramban and Midrashim, etc., to kind of bear on the questions she's asking. And so I'm going to just share, a little piece from her. And it goes like this. So, mitoch nigud meshave hazeh, and what's the nigud? Because of this contradiction, and the contradiction here is between that they recognize him, and we recognize Abraham as Nasi Elohim, as a very important person. And the fact that he keeps bowing down to them and begging them and talking to them like he's so dependent on them, and he's so the question she asked is and the sages asked is in previous parshas it says. We just read all the promises to Avraham that he will own the land, that he will be great, that he will be, so Ba'agadla Shimcha, Kum italech ba'aretz ki lecha etnena. These are, I will make your name great, says God to Abraham. Roam the land, because this land is going to be yours and your descendants. God promises it, says to him. And and the reality of him being so humble and so dependent and so begging of these Hittites, right? There's a big contradiction. So she says, "Mitoch nigud meshaveh hazeh." From this, she says it's a screaming contradiction. Nigud meshaveh, it's screaming. It's like, it's begging for something. I mean, you can't ignore it, right? Ra'u Chazal ke'echad hanisyonot shenasah b'hem Avraham. The sages say this too was another test for Avram, according to Nechama. V'hen yadua lechulanu, and we all know kechol shegdola hastira ben havtacha ve'yeud ben metziut aktuali. The greater the contradiction between a promise and a destiny in the Torah, actually, and the reality that's presented, ken gadol hanisayon. The bigger is the test. L'fakpek, litmarmer, afilu litmared v'liv'ot. And what's the test? That Abraham should be bitter. Should be doubting, l'fakpek, litmarmer, to doubt, to be bitter, and afilu litmared, and even to rebel. You could say this is the time when Abraham can again rebel against God and say, "Well, what is this?" It's like, how come I need to go through all these rituals and all these.
Right. Yeah, this is the first. I'm just trying to understand what she's saying. So she's saying, I think, that he's come to a point where he really needs to utilize this promise now.
That's right.
And he's finding himself like a beggar You know, it's like my car. That's my car. Why do I have to beg you for the keys to my car? Like, what are you doing with the keys to my car?
That is.
And I need to I need it now for a very important thing. And his dear wife Sarah, his life partner,
That's
he
right.
wants to bury according to the spiritual Jewish way. And now he's got to cut. What do I have to do with this? What is this? If
right.
you're going to give me why isn't it mine now?
That's right. That's right. And what she says is, you know, she says that if you look at this whole rigmarole that he's going through, she says that was the custom of the time, of the place and the time. You know, that a lot of that was, you know, you can, that's how business deals worked. And there was a law of the land. And you didn't give away your ancestral land to somebody else. You didn't sell it, especially not for burial purposes. You know, so it's almost like, yes, God promises, but the reality on the ground is all against the promise. You know,
right.
and you know they have to make it according to, you know, research and, you know, also historical research. You know, Abraham's request for a burial place goes against all the rules of the land of the time. You know, you don't just buy a plot. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's like,
gotcha. Yeah,
this is Hittite land, and you know, so he is basically asking them for something that's out of the ordinary to make an exception.
Gotcha. Got it.
So that's what she says. So he can say it's not that there's nothing wrong. You know, nobody's doing anything terrible. It's not like God is asking him again to, you know, sacrifice his son. No, this is normal life. But normal life is completely opposite to all the promises. You know,
right?
You know, he's a wanderer. You know, he's a ger v'toshav. He's a stranger. You know, it's like, yeah, they respect him. He has good relations. But how does he make the leap from here to this land is mine? You know, it's again, you know, it's a little similar to what happens with Yitzchak. You know, you said that Yitzchak is going to be carry the seed on, right? But right. So there's that contradiction, right? So she says, this is an isayon where he could have been, you know, he could have argued with God. You know? I mean, we know he's done it before. You know, he could have said, what do you mean? Right? It's another test of faith. She say the Chazal, according to her. And because Abraham is good for the test, he passes it. That he believes that it's going to turn out fine, but he's going to follow the protocol. He's going to go through what he has to go through. למרות כל מה שאומרת הריאליות החברתית, הכלכלית, המדינית, you know, it's like there's the social and economical and the political realities that he is abiding by, even though it's contradictory. So, ראו חז"ל את החשיבות הפרק הזה ואת לקחו. That's why the commentators see this particular incident as really critical. You know, another critical, you know, to show something about Avraham, about his greatness. And here she quotes Midrash HaGadol. And that's where I want to wrap it up. I'll bring the Midrash HaGadol, then we can open it up. And quote, Bo u'e anvanuto shel Avraham Avinu. Come and see the humbleness of our father Abraham. שהבטיחו הקדוש ברוך הוא לתת לו ולזרעו את הארץ. That the Holy One, blessed be, promises him and to his seed that they will inherit the land. ועכשיו לא מצא קבורה, אלא בדמים רבים. And now he can't find a place to bury Sarah without great cost. And I'm not clear if they're talking only cost of the money of the 400 shekel, or the cost of, you know, the humility or humiliation, or the, you know, I mean, bowing and bowing and bowing.
Right.
ולא הרהר אחר מידותיו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, and Abraham does not doubt, or the integrity, you say, of Kadosh Baruch Hu, of the Holy One, blessed. He doesn't doubt God and says that there's deficiency in God, because of everything he has to go through. V'lo kara tegar, and he did not challenge. V'lo od ela shediber im yoshvei haaretz ela be'anava. And even more so, he talks to the people in front of him with great humility.
Right.
Shene'emar ger v'toshav anochi imachem. As it says, he says to them, "Who am I? I'm nobody. I'm the alien resident," which they later contradict. Amar lo Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the Holy One, blessed be, says to him, "Ata ishpalta atzmecha." You have humbled yourself. It's more in the Hebrew ishpalta. It's you humiliated yourself. You really put yourself down. Chayecha shani asimcha adon v'nasi alehem. It's you can bet on your life that I will make you a master and a master and a ruler over them. That's what the Midrash Gadol says.
Yeah, it's fascinating. This answers what she was asking originally about the bowing. Not only, in other words, he could have given them a smirk and said, "All right, I'll play along with your game. Here, I'll write you a check, but this is all mine.
Yeah.
I'll play along, But he didn't. He sincerely accepted his present condition.
Yeah.
He didn't lay everything onto the future.
Yeah.
He accepted what's happening now, and he sincerely agreed to abide, as you say, with the local custom, local traditions,
right.
And honestly bought it in good faith.
That's right.
Bought his own thing.
Yeah.
An amazing lesson in humility.
Yeah. It's for me, that is the lesson. In some ways, you can say it's also because of the secret of survival of the Yehudim, of the Am HaYehudi, the Jewish people, is that in some ways we honored and always went with the law of the land. And in fact, in history, in the Amoraim, at the beginning of the time of the writing of the Talmud, of the Gemara, so in Babylonian, I think it was Rav or Shmuel and Rav, if I remember this correctly, they made a deal with the Babylonians that they would abide by, all the laws of the land. Babylonia was, was a great civilization at the time, for the freedom to, and then pay their taxes for the freedom to, to study and be autonomous and be independent and study Torah. And that's the Talmud came out of that, because they got that freedom. And he coins, I think it was Rav who coins the famous halachic principle, Dina de Malchuta Dina, right? He says, we're going to have our own laws, but we're going to first respect the law of the land. That is our law. And that's the deal. We follow your law, Babylonians, and, we're not competing with your law, but you let us manage ourselves internally the way we want to. And that allowed them to develop the whole, the Gemara and the whole, this amazing project that shapes, the future of the Jewish people. So you see that Abraham is already so I think there's a genius in that. It's like,
mm-hmm. You're connecting Dina de Malchusa Dina all the way back to this incident with Avram Avinu.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
That's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
So and there's something, but the thing is, I never thought of it as a practical thing. But what you see here is it's a God-fearing thing. Midrash Gadol, that Hashem, he says, the fact that you're going to go with them, with honor and with humility, that is, you've proven yourself to me. Mm. That's what it looks like to me, right? It's
very good. Yeah, Rabbi Nachman in Likutei Moharan, he brings this story, and he quotes the Zohar. The Zohar says that this cave, the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, is the Shar Gan Eden.
Yeah.
The Derech Asher Kol HaNeshamis Oilin Bo. He says it's the gate leading directly to the Garden of Eden, where all souls travel back and forth between worlds.
Yep. Yeah.
So based on that, Rabbi Nachman has a question here. Well, wait a minute. And the Zohar says that there was such a bright light emanating from this cave because of that.
Yeah.
He says, wait a minute. If it was such a place, why was Ephraim willing to give it away for $400?
Yeah.
So he answers and he says that that's because Ephraim, he says Ephraim comes from the word afar. Ephraim was all tied, he was all tied up with his materialistic, he was earthbound guy.
Yeah.
So when he looks at a cave, he sees dirt.
Yeah.
He sees darkness.
Yeah.
Abraham was tied up to God, tied into spirituality.
Yeah.
When he saw the cave, he recognized, he even smelt it.
Yeah.
It says that the Messiah, Mashiach, will have a great sense of smell. Our sense, he used his senses for spiritual things, so he was tuned in to the frequency. So he went in there and he says, wow, this is a holy place. I want it. Ephraim said, this is a cave. Who cares? There's no gold in here. Take it, $400, good deal.
That's right.
So he says, the Rabbi Nachman concludes and he says, you know, we're all like this. We all have an aspect of Ephraim. We all have an aspect of Abraham.
Yeah.
With which eyes are we looking at things?
Yeah.
He says if we would look with Abraham eyes, we would see the godliness and the holiness and the spirituality of a lot of things in this world.
Yeah.
But if we're going with Ephraim eyes, then everything is dirty. This is no good. He's no good. This one's no good. You know,
spiders and bats.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. You know, you have to look at the world with Abraham eyes, and Abraham knows. You know, to see the best.
Yeah, and the fact that the Zohar, you know, says that actually Adam and Chava were buried there, and you know that is from the Gan Eden, and you know, there's something about that connection. You know, it's not just a simple cave. Basically, it's you know, it is that. So and it's in the eye of the beholder. Basically, is what Reb Nachman is saying. You know, if you can see it, you see it. If you want to see it all materially, so
that's what you get.
So you want. So yeah, I think that's what we have for today. Everybody, thank you for joining us for this lesson again. See you next Wednesday, God willing. Please do like and subscribe if you're inspired. If you see the light that shines through our time, and I hope there's a light that shines here, why don't you subscribe so you can come back for more? And until next Wednesday, shalom for now.